Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you cruise a little smarter. And I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way up in Wisconsin, the great state of Wisconsin. How are you doing today, Chad?
I am good, Steve. How are you doing?
Not too bad. It's good to talk to you. We're going to talk about a trip report instead of talking about ships being made over in Germany this year.
I mean, that's fun too, but getting to talk to friends is also fun.
Oh, well, I'm going to let you introduce our friends.
So back, I think for the third time, I think on the podcast. Welcome back to the Miller family in California.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello.
Not too bad. We need to up our game here on the DCL podcast. And after, especially 3 times being on the podcast, we should be sending something out to you guys. So just wait for it in the mail. It'll be there anytime soon.
All right.
But in all honesty, thank you so much for coming back and sharing your guys' experiences on your latest cruise.
Yeah, no, we're excited to share.
We always love talking about Disney cruising.
But I would be reneging without saying that you guys run an amazing YouTube channel where you talk about all your adventures. And for those who are listening to you the first time, why don't you give a little background on how you started your YouTube channel and where they can find you?
Yeah, we started our YouTube channel back in 2019, I think. We just were posting a few videos, really more for our memory's sake, and also just for a few friends and family that wanted to we could share it with them. Going to Disneyland, doing other trips up north, some in your area, I think, Steve, Pacific Northwest. And over time, we were encouraged to do it more often. And so we talked about it and we decided, hey, let's upload a video each week and it'll be like a snapshot of our life and our travels as a family of 4.
And it's called?
Oh, Adventure. Sorry, should have said that wrong. Adventures in Millerland.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, Chris.
Oh, no worries.
But we'll definitely put that in the show notes so people can find it. It's a lot of fun to follow along all the different adventures you guys have. You guys go all over the place, which is really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's fun to be able to share our adventures and have our 2 daughters involved. They're 13 and 15 now, so they participate in most of the vlogs, but sometimes it's just Chris and I also, but we do love sharing our stories.
Yeah, and the best part of it is as the channel has grown, I feel like our community has gotten bigger and just really connecting with people in ways that wouldn't have been possible without it. So it's been really fun connecting with people. And some of those people we actually got to meet on this cruise we're going to talk about.
So for those that haven't had a chance to really meet you guys or hear on the podcast before, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of your cruising background and some of your Disney history? I know you guys are frequent Disneyland goers. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we live in California, although we're about 6 hours away from Disneyland, but we usually end up going to the parks probably once a year. Before COVID, we had spent quite a bit of time planning our first cruise. Of course, it ended up being canceled. And Chad, was that the one that you were going to be on with us?
Yep,
it was. Yeah, once upon a time, that was I think the one of the COVID canceled cruises.
Yes,
like canceled the first. I think everything got canceled 2 or 3 weeks before we were supposed to sail.
Yeah, so we've been looking forward to that cruise for over a year and a half, but after cruising came back up, we've been going strong ever since. So now we have been on 4 cruises, all after COVID, and we are basically addicted. Obviously,
that's how it happens. We scheduled what was supposed to be our one and only Disney cruise in 2016, and that how that goes.
They're like rabbits. It just keeps growing somehow. So
you can't leave without the placeholder, and then all of a sudden you got that placeholder sitting around.
They get you hooked that way.
That's how they get you.
Well, not only that, then you find friends, as you guys have with your podcast, with your vlog as well, and that kind of hooks you into it as well. So this time you guys sailed out of New Orleans. We're going to talk a little bit about New Orleans on the Disney Magic. It was a 6-day cruise, which was a day at sea, Cozumel. Grand Cayman, 2 days at sea, which I always like a day at sea before you get back to port at least. And now you got 2 days. But you traveled with a big group. Why don't you talk about the group you guys traveled with and how you got connected with them?
We started researching Disney cruises when we first signed up for our first one, which our first one we actually signed up for was on the Fantasy. And that one eventually got canceled too, because that was going to be in 2020 as well. But we were watching vlogs and we connected with a channel that had done a number of Disney cruises, and that's called Leg Life. They have really grown a lot. Their channel has. but I really think it's because they're just amazing people. Community that they've been able to build over on YouTube has just been incredible. And they decided to do a viewer cruise, and that's the first cruise we actually went on back in October 2021. And so we got to meet them there, Adam and Sherry Legg, and along with some other friends that we've gotten connected with over the last number of years through YouTube, of all places. And around that time, is a little bit earlier that year, is when we started making regular videos for ourselves for our YouTube channel. And so we vlogged it, we experienced it, which was great. But then this one was the second viewer cruise that Leg Life put on. And that's really just a bunch of people that decided, hey, actually the Legs said, we want to go on a cruise and we'd love to have some friends join us. And you signed up, and we had about 160 people on this one from that group.
Yeah, it was a big group.
Yeah.
They made a website for us to sign up, and they gave us some swag so we could identify each other, like a lanyard, so we could be able to tell who was in the group, and had a couple meetups, which was really fun.
Yeah, we did a meetup in New Orleans and then another one on the ship, and then a big group picture that we took together. It was so fun meeting everyone. And some of them also were viewers of our channel, so it was great interacting with people who knew us from our vlog as well. And there was a few other content creators on there as well, for Love of the Mouse and R0 and Lin Imagination. There's a number of creators on there, and everyone who's coming primarily was there for Leg Life, but they were also there because they had connected with us as well.
Yeah, it was just neat to walk around and continually see people that you had met before and build stronger relationships. It was really fun.
Yeah, putting an actual face to like a username that you see on YouTube or on Instagram.
I think that's like one of the special things about this kind of community, the DCL community or cruising or just traveling community and the vlogging community, is you find a lot of people that have similar interests, right? And it's a fun time to be able to cruise and spend time with. I know, Chad, you and our family spent some time together cruising on the Wonder. If you can, I don't know your thoughts, but I mean, it's great to be able to go out and do things with your family or maybe just with your significant other. But it's also fun to spend some time, whether having a drink in the lounge or having dinner together or going to a show and talking about it afterwards. What are your thoughts, Chad?
No, I agree. You and I have been on the one cruise together. I've been on several other sailings with other friends as well, and some of those are people that you meet sort of through Facebook groups or whatever else with all the sailings and stuff. And just being able to sort of meet those people and, to your point, sort of put a name with a face or sort of across a screen or something like that, and then you just sort of see them throughout the week that you're on the ship. We've got friends that we met on our first cruise in 2016 that we're booked, I think, on our fifth cruise with that family. So you sort of get to meet people. To your point, Steve, you find out you get a lot in common besides just, hey, I like going on Disney cruises. You meet a lot of great people on these trips, and it's the whole community is super great.
And so for Lindsay and Alyssa as well, were there a lot of kids as well with this group?
Yeah, there were a lot of kids, and we had a Facebook, a couple Facebook groups, actually. There was the Leg Life one, and then there was also just a regular Facebook group that you can find for your sailing. We had arranged a meetup beforehand for the kids to be in Vibe and an Edge and try to meet each other.
Ship.
Yeah. We had arranged it ahead of time through the Facebook group. So yeah, they met friends right away and stuck with those kids throughout the whole cruise. And they had, I think this might have been their favorite cruise because they made, well, it's hard to say. But
yeah, they definitely had a core group of friends they hung with like the whole cruise. And that's only happened twice for us, on the Fantasy and on the Magic.
Yeah, it didn't happen so much for Alyssa on the Fantasy, but on this sailing on the Magic, they both made great friends. And I mean, that's definitely, I'd say, the highlight for them is those friends and relationships that they make on those cruises.
I love that for them, and just for all the kids in general. I love it for the adults because you guys get some adult time to just kind of hang out, and the kids are bonding, are making those friendships as well, which really makes it a special moment for all of you. So, well, let's turn to kind of the cruise itself. It leaves out of New Orleans. You guys, Chris, you said this is your first time in New Orleans?
Yeah, my first time there. Definitely wish we could have been there longer. We had to take the girls out of school for the first few days of the trip, so we couldn't take more days, but it was amazing. Definitely would have loved to explore a bit more. We had one whole day to kind of explore as much as we could have. We mostly stuck in the French Quarter area, and that's where our hotel was, so it just kind of made sense to stay there. But we just, we loved it. And we got to explore a little bit of New Orleans the day we got off the ship, because we had a flight later in the evening, like around 7:00. So we did the hop on, hop off tour the day we got off the ship, just to see a little bit more stuff we didn't see the first couple days. But it was amazing.
Before we talk about where you guys stayed, Carrie, what were some of the highlights for you spending in New Orleans? What were some of the things you were glad to see, or you were excited to see, or that you saw?
Well, the food is always a highlight in New Orleans. I mean, you have the Cajun food, you have the seafood, you have the beignets. So there's that. And then there's just every single place you look is so unique. You can turn one way and just stare and turn the other way. And I mean, the buildings, the people, the art, the music, it is just so culturally rich and things to do and see when you're there. So, I mean, I loved every part of it.
I've only had a chance to be there once, and it was many, many years ago. But it's, like these guys are talking about, it's a super vibrant city that I'm itching to get back to at some point, and hopefully get to do a cruise just like they did out of New Orleans.
One of the things that really just sticks in my mind, the first full day, we got there in the evening, rushed off to have dinner with friends that we were meeting up with. And that next day, we just had most of the whole day, like, to just explore. We walk out of our hotel. We're staying really close to Bourbon Street, which has a whole feel of its own at night. And during the day, it's a little more tame. It smells interesting. But we were walking past Royal Street, which is just after Bourbon, on our way to the French Quarter area. And there was this jazz band playing on the street. And it was just like, the vibe was just perfect. It was so much fun just being there, hearing that music. They were really good. And I just remember standing there watching and listening to them. We try to make it a point. We've learned this from a few friends, but if we're going to stop and listen to them, maybe even feature them in our vlog, we want to give them a little something. So I remember Alyssa running over there and dropping a few things, a little bit of money in there. But it was just so much fun to just listen to this band. And then, like, that set the day. Like, it was just fun, just exploring and seeing everything.
So you mentioned, I think Carrie mentioned the beignets. I know you guys have been on the Wonder. How did they compare how do the Wonder beignets compare to the real thing that you get in the French Quarter?
Well, I think you just said it. The real thing is always
okay.
Yeah, although I think Chris and I disagree about which is the better beignet place
in New Orleans.
In New Orleans, because there is Café du Monde, which is the famous place that's been open for years and has a huge line. And then there's Café Beignet, which is newer. I don't think they had that last time I was there. And they have those all over the place.
They have multiple locations in that area.
Yeah. So it's a lot easier to get one there. And I think for me, I like the original just because it's the original. They're both really good. I mean, it's fried dough with sugar, so it's good stuff. Yeah,
I like Café Beignet better. I feel like they put more sugar on it, which I always enjoy. And I just like that style of beignet. Nice, soft, and it's not too, like, dense. And so I don't know. That's just my favorite. I'm not a huge fan of the Mickey beignets. They're good. They just aren't my favorite. Our favorite ones at Disneyland are the ones at the express window at not Cafe Orleans, Jazz Kitchen in downtown Disney. Those are amazing.
I have a feeling we might not be asked back to the podcast after you said you don't like Mickey beignets.
I know. I will eat them. I will get them. They're just not my favorite. How about that?
That's okay.
No shame in losing out to Café du Monde's beignets.
And Nova from the podcast also would second you, Chris. So.
And you did mention, Chad, the beignets on the Wonder, and I've heard the Wish has them too, correct?
So I think they did. I never got a chance to get them, but I think over in what's the Tiana's
the Bayou.
Yes, thank you. I think they've got them over in the Bayou, but I never got a chance to get them when I was on.
Yeah, I know we've liked the beignets you get that they serve you for dessert during the dinner service at Tiana's place on the Wonder. We like those better than the ones they serve you in the French Quarter Lounge on the Wonder. Not sure why they're different, but they just are a little bit better.
I always just think it's great that we have the opportunity to compare so many beignets.
We're always winning.
It's hard to really go wrong.
Yeah.
Fried dough and powdered sugar. Exactly. Right. So,
yep.
Chocolate dip and sauce. That's the best part.
Exactly. First world problems. Well, before we turn the cruise, I just want to go back to your music thing. I remember when Anamik and I were there and we did our sailing on the Wonder a couple of years ago. We walked down by Jackson Square in front of the Basilica, and there was a whole group of people playing New Orleans jazz. It must have been about 20 people all together. And
Wow.
I just got a kick because there's like this big sign that says Quiet Zone or something like that. And they just had it rocking. And that music, I love New Orleans jazz. It was just kind of a special moment for us. So I know what you're talking about, just that feel of the city.
Yep.
I saw that sign too, and there was a band playing in front of it this time also. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. I tried to take a picture of it, but it didn't turn out. But all right, well, let's turn to the cruise itself. So you guys stayed downtown New Orleans, and the Magic now leaving out of New Orleans is right downtown there as well. How did you guys get from your hotel? We walked it. It was pretty close from our hotel. How did you guys get there for people?
Well, I'm trying to remember. I had a friend who actually had sailed out of New Orleans before. And so he gave me a tip, and we were booked, I think, at the Spring Hill Suites, which is really close to the convention center there. And he had said, from their experience, they stayed at another hotel, the Hampton Inn, that was really close to it. And their experience was it was a little bit challenging to walk to the terminal from there. And honestly, I'm glad we didn't stay close because it was wet. Like, it was raining really hard the morning we were getting on the ship. So we decided at the last minute, with a couple weeks to go, to change our hotel to something in the French Quarter. I think we stayed at the Olivier House Hotel. And it was like this kind of like old school, like mansion from like long time ago that's been converted into this like crazy Winchester Mystery House style hotel that just has endless hallways and corridors and rooms. And
it was the coolest, weirdest hotel I've ever stayed in my life. Yeah.
But it was that classic, it had a balcony that you went out and you could see Bourbon Street, you could see like the streets below, and there's, you could see all the busyness of everything around you. We really enjoyed it. It was different. It was a definitely unique place to stay. So speaking to getting on the cruise, we decided, hey, let's get a taxi. We actually befriended our taxi driver that picked us up that we got from the airport to take us to our hotel. And he gave us his number and he said, hey, call me when you want to get to the ship. Because we told him what we were there for and what we were doing. So we called him and he came and he picked us up right outside the hotel and he took us to the port.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a pretty good tip to know about because we had to wait in a huge line to get a taxi from the airport. And then after getting this guy's number, I think there was 3 different times that he picked us up because he brought us to our hotel and then he brought us to dinner and then he brought us to the ship. And then afterwards, he brought us back to the airport.
Yep.
So that if you can get a taxi driver's number, that's a good driver. That is a good thing to do.
So for our family, we are not light packers. So whenever I can find a taxi driver who's got a minivan and we can haul all of our crap and all of us in it, it's a huge win.
Yeah, and that's the thing is with Uber or Lyft, you just don't know what they're going to pick you up in, and you're kind of locked into that ride. And so you might be holding luggage on your lap, which is super comfortable for that almost 30-minute ride from the airport to the French Quarter area, if that's where you're staying.
To your point, it was we stayed at the Hilton, which was right down the street, and it was a pretty easy walk. But it was just the 2 of us. We didn't have a family. We didn't have the kids, and we were pretty light packers for that cruise. But it is kind of confusing because there's a convention center, and then behind the convention center is where the ship leaves. And there's not like an easy path to get you there. Once you figure it out, it's not that bad. But if you're just walking there, you might, for those who might be sailing out of New Orleans next year, if you decide to walk to the port, if you're close by, make sure you talk to maybe the concierge at the hotel to kind of give you some good directions.
Frequent listeners to the podcast, Steve, will not be surprised that you guys walk to the port.
I know.
That's always our goal too. If you guys remember, like we love staying as close to the port as possible to walk, which is not possible like out of Port Canaveral. But San Diego is the only other place we sailed from, and we love staying right down the street from it. So
I think Vancouver's pretty easy, and I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, those are the 2, I guess. San Diego and Vancouver and New Orleans are probably the easiest. So okay, let's get on to the cruise itself. So you guys are with a big group cruising. Did you guys book anything ahead of time, or did they book things for you? How did that work?
one of the things we really wanted to do was Apollo brunch with our group of friends that we were kind of cruising with. So we had this group of friends that were really like content creators. There was about, with all 4 families, there was 16 of us. And with the adults, I think there was 11 of us. And so we really wanted to do Apollo brunch. but we weren't sure, could they sit us all together for dinner? Could they get the adults together and sit together in Palo? And if not, that was okay. But we found out there was a process to reserve the private dining room in Palo for brunch. And we were able to get that secured. And so we had that booked, which was great. We had a blast doing that. And then I think we did a chocolate liqueur tasting that we booked ahead of time. We didn't book any port adventures through Disney this time around.
And for that Palo brunch, I think each group of us separately made a reservation, and then one person made the reservation for everyone, and then we canceled the original one. So I think just remembering that, you can always make reservations ahead of time and then cancel what you don't end up deciding to do is good to remember.
Yeah. And basically, they can't guarantee if you're going to do a large party. Say there's in the private dining room can handle 8 or more. I think 8 to 14 adults is what it is on the classic ships, at least. I don't know about the newer ones. You can book that, and there's a piece of paper that you can get. You email it in, and you don't know if you got it reserved for your party until 15 to 30 days before the cruise. So because of that, what Carrie was talking about is, everyone decided to book their own Palo brunch just in case that larger group one didn't work out.
Okay, so you guys just touched on something that I had a question about. So it's probably, I thought you mentioned there was 16 of you that were in the private dining room. Is that right?
In the main dining room, there's 16 of us. There's 11 of us for the Palo brunch.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say, because that's be a pretty large group to be in that spot. I was wondering how tight it was when you had a group that large.
With 11 of us, there's still room for more, a few more if we had that. But that was a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, it was also really fun to have all 16 of us at dinner every night. We had a huge table and one, server team for all of us, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
Well, let's just stick with that, and then we'll come back and talk about the magic itself. So how did dinner work out for you guys? And you said you had 16 people, so you had one serving team, obviously rotating the restaurants around and everything like that. So it worked out pretty good, it sounded like.
Yeah, that was kind of the fun thing is when we were in there, we went to, I keep wanting to say Tiana's Rapunzel's Royal Table.
That was our first one.
That's where we went for lunch when we got on board the ship, because it was raining so much. Another one of the reasons I'm so glad we were able to have someone drive us to the port, because it was just coming down. And that's one thing of getting back to the port I love in New Orleans. If it's raining, it's a covered port area. So if it's raining, you get out of your car, you're not going to get sopping wet, which is great, which wouldn't happen in San Diego. So that said, when we got to Rapunzel's for lunch after we boarded the ship, we saw the table that we were going to be sitting at. And someone said, "Oh yeah, there's a really large party that's going to be in every dining room." I'm like, "Oh, that's us."
It was really cool because it was this really large round table, and it was kind of almost like the centerpiece of each restaurant.
Yeah.
So it had prime seating for all the shows, especially the one with Mickey with the wizard hat.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Sorcerer Mickey.
Sorcerer Mickey. Yep. Sorry, my brain was not saying that right. And yeah, we had just great seats, and it was just I don't know.
And we had a few little kids with us in our dining party. Yeah. It was so much fun seeing that, making sure that they had good seats to see all that stuff happening in each of the dinner shows when there was entertainment.
I mean, I guess you always pretty much feel like royalty when you're on a Disney cruise, but with the kind of service you get. But it was just something really special about that big table that I don't know. It was a unique experience.
And we had an incredible team of servers, and it was just, we couldn't have gotten better service.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's amazing that you had one serving team for all 16 of you. I know Anawik and I, the first time we cruised by ourselves, we were at a table of maybe 10, I guess, 5 different couples, I guess, sitting at a table, kind of probably not as big as the one you're at, but that was a good time as well. Chad, have you ever sat with a group that big?
No, I think the biggest we've sat it with would be 8, I think, of us at one point, which we've always just had the one server that would come through. But I mean, as I think about it, right, if you a table is 16, it's not uncommon for a server to have 4, 5, 6, 10 tables or whatever it is. So it seems like, hey, they probably were completely focused on you guys for the most part, and sort of whatever you needed.
Yeah, they really were, because we were their only table. So that was probably another aspect of why we had such excellent service. Well, I did notice they took our order a little different than we'd had in the past, though. It was I guess now I can't really remember how they did it in the past, but it was like we sat down and within just a few minutes, they want us to put our entire order in. And I felt like before we had done it a lot slower. So the food came really fast, but we realized quickly we needed to be prepared with everything, including dessert. We just even ordered dessert at the very beginning.
Yeah, our main server, she was so great, but you could tell when it came to taking your order and getting the food to the table, she was all business. And it showed because
and she was tiny.
Our food was it's the hottest served food we've had on a Disney cruise ship. We've had, the pasta per sets that you get at Animators. Our experience with those has been okay. This is the first time I think we've gotten them delivered like really like hot and warm. They were amazing.
Makes a big difference.
It does. But like that just spoke to how like on top of it our server team was. But the rest of the meal, like it was like fun and light. She was joking with everyone at the table and having fun with the kids, and just it was great.
I love that it's back to that now, where the servers can do the magic tricks and joke with you a little bit more and everything else, especially for the kids' sake. Was there a meal that stood out for you that was memorable?
Well, the only new experience we had was Rapunzel's, because we've done the other two, which, there's that one that is on almost every cruise ship, like, the Tritons, the Lumieres type of.
I would say before we ever went on our first cruise, the person who told us about Disney cruising told us about the beef Wellington. And we had that on the Fantasy, but we were warned before it came out that they had accidentally overcooked it. So
for everyone that night.
Yeah, because it's such a large thing to make. So we had really looked forward to that, and it wasn't that great, although it wasn't horrible. But this time it was just as amazing as it had been described to me. So that stood out. That was delicious. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we did the curry thing too.
We did the Indian food family style. And a couple of us had heard that you can put a special request in for that. And so we did. The night before we had it, we asked, hey, can we have, family style Indian food served the next night? And all you got to do is ask. And the next night they'll bring it to your table, and it's served on I think it was 3 big platters of the dishes, and then also rice. And it was really good. Had some kick to it, but it was really, really good.
One good thing to know is you can also order off the menu when you get that Indian food family style. You can also order other, appetizers, desserts, main trays.
Yeah, you can order out that menu that you get that night.
Yeah, that was the night that I was in pain afterwards. I was so full, and oh my gosh, Indian food always does that though for me.
I remember ordering that. Be warned, listeners, if you haven't done this before, if you order your regular food and then order Indian food on top of it, you're gonna have so much food. It was like more food than we could eat, but it was incredible.
Hungry.
Yeah. Chad, have you had it before?
No, I haven't. So the funny thing is I had a friend who just recently took her first cruise, and I was thinking about that afterwards, and I kind of told her that. She's like, "Oh, my husband would have loved that." So I think it's one of those little hidden tricks that aren't super advertised, but everyone I know who's done it loves it.
Yep.
And I love the fact that Disney, they're so thoughtful. If one family's beef Wellington is going to be ruined, they're going to ruin it for everybody. One person is not going to just be specially treated that way. So
that's right.
It's those little touches that they go through for you.
That's right.
So I'm sorry, I'm in a smart aleck kind of mood tonight. So
no, I love it.
Let's get back on let's rewind a little bit. Let's get back on the Magic as you got on board there. Had you guys been on the Magic before? I know you've been on the Wonder and the Fantasy.
We've been on the Wonder twice, and then the Fantasy once. This was our 4th cruise and our first time on the Magic.
Okay, so what were your guys' overall thoughts getting on the Magic there in New Orleans, and then just overall as a ship?
Well, it was a different boarding experience because we boarded on deck 4 instead of deck 3. Like deck 3, the classic, getting on the Disney ship in the atrium, they announce your name. It's like the atrium, or at least in the Wish, it's the what is it, the Grand Hall or something. But that's what we were used to. This one we just boarded on deck 4, so the faux wood deck. You get on there, and then they walk you through, and then they bring you inside, and they still announce you, but you're on deck 4. And so it was still fun, still enjoyable, just not the classic experience that you're used to. So at least, I don't know if that's how every ship that sails out of New Orleans is for Disney, but that was our experience. And it was, like I said, great. So that was a little bit different. We had heard things about the Magic. It's Disney's oldest ship. There's aspects of the Magic after having sailed on her that it's surprising to me how they do a great job keeping it up, and the crew is amazing. But how aged in different areas of the ship the Magic felt compared to the Wonder, even though the Wonder is only 1 year newer, I believe. And there's aspects of the Magic that just felt like, okay, the ship has seen its days, but it's still doing good. It sailed great, minus a big storm we sailed through. We'll get to that maybe.
Yeah, but I think always that moment of entering the ship, no matter where you are coming on board, it is just an amazing, magical experience. And, I'm about to say the Disney ships have this amazing smell, and you walk on, and if it's your first cruise, you don't really notice it. But when you come back, it's like, oh, there's the Disney smell. And then, everything is so beautiful, and you see Mickey and Minnie, and I love it. That's one of my favorite parts of the cruise. Yeah.
Embarkation day is always just amazing. Even if it's raining outside, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And actually, it was really fun for this cruise do the sit down dining in Rapunzel's, because we had never been to Rapunzel's, and it is such a cool dining room with the decorations and the lanterns, and so that was actually really fun. I'm glad we went there for lunch.
I think that restaurant's actually probably my favorite in all of I know everybody loves Tiana's, but I think Rapunzel's for me is actually my favorite. Just the decor and the vibe of the place, I think is really awesome. I think you were talking about kind of boarding on deck 4. We've only been on the Magic once, and it was out of Miami. It was the same situation where we came in on deck 4, but I think that's less about kind of the ship. It's more about kind of the port infrastructure and kind of like where their gangways will kind of, depending on what ship it is and stuff like that, kind of where it can reach to and stuff like that. That's interesting to hear that New Orleans does board into deck 4 on those classic ships.
And it's okay to say that. I've been thinking about the Magic too, as far as we sailed on her last summer for 9 nights. And you're right. She definitely, compared to the Wonder, which is kind of amazing. There's just like little things here and there where like the teak is really worn compared to the Wonder, where it just like popped and was really shiny. I can't think of any other, like real specifics, but she's definitely, like you said, the oldest ship. She just got out of dry dock, and we've got a couple of people coming up to talk about her in the coming weeks. So I'm kind of curious to see what their take is after they spent some time working on her a little bit.
I'm excited to one day hopefully go back on her, especially after the dry dock, to see the changes. I mean, they're not huge, but like they have a new lounge and all that kind of stuff. They redecorated and all that kind of stuff. So I liked some of the features on the Magic a little bit better than the Wonder, but I like the Wonder as a ship better as a whole. Like, I like the drop slide that they have, the Aqua Dunk. That was a lot of fun. We all went on it.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
I was saving that question for later, but the Aqua Duck versus Aqua Dunk comparison, you have to tell us that at some point.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's talk about your guys' stateroom then. Your family of 4. What'd you guys do this time for a stateroom, and how did that work out for you?
We had, I'm looking at you, Chris. Okay. I can't remember what it's called. Extended family veranda?
No, it was deluxe family ocean view veranda. So it had the little bit longer room and had the Murphy bed that dropped down. So it gave us a little more room to spread out. And this cruise specifically, what made that really easy or more accessible for us is this was one of the Disney Plus discount cruises. And so we were able to basically both girls' fares were free, except for, a few of the port fees and taxes and all that fun stuff. But that was an amazing discount. We ended up upgrading to that room that was a little bit bigger. It was the first time we stayed in a room like that. And it was great because it gave our girls options for where they wanted to sleep. And
I was really surprised because our younger daughter, who just turned 13, she always really likes the top bunk. And I really thought she would not want to sleep in the Murphy bed. I thought she'd like to stay in the top bunk, but once she tried the Murphy bed, she loved it. She really wanted to stay there.
Yeah. So now, other cruises we're probably going to have to go back to the normal room with the bunk. And so that may if we can swing the family one with the 5 beds, that will be great. But if we can't, I think we'll be okay. But it was really nice to be able to experience that. I was a little bit nervous because we were on deck 8, which is right below the pool deck. And so I was a little bit nervous that we'd hear, moving around of chairs above us and all that kind of stuff.
Hear that.
I didn't hear it that much.
Yeah.
At least when we were in the room, either waking up or going to sleep. During the day, I'm sure there was noise,
Well, I usually we sleep with the white noise and the earplugs and everything, but I did notice it and I thought, oh man, this is going to be a pain. But once you turn on the white noise, it really doesn't matter because they're cleaning off the deck at night when you're going to bed, so they do move the chairs around.
Yeah. Pro tip: if you are going to be in a room that you're worried about noise being an issue, bring earplugs and have a white noise app on your phone.
Yep,
because it does help.
So a question for you about the room. So I think, so you said it's one of those ones with the Murphy bed. So those sleep 5 typically, correct? So they would have a drop down if you wanted to use it, plus the Murphy bed, plus the sofa bed.
Yep.
I think those are Cat 4A through 4D, if I remember correctly.
I can't remember if it was a 4A or 4B. I think it was a 4B, but
Yeah. So one of the things I've had, so I've never myself been in one of those. We usually we book the cheapy balconies for our family. I had somebody ask me about that one a while back. They were asking about access to the veranda when that Murphy bed is down. Is it totally cut off at that point? It's at least based on the pictures I've seen, it looks like you really couldn't get around it to get into the veranda. Is there a way? How does that work?
it does make it a little more difficult, but there is space there to open the door and go out. And so, yeah, I mean, the great thing is our stateroom attendant, like they would do for every other room, they would put the Murphy bed up after, when they come in the morning and kind of tidy up. So during the day, it's not down. But yeah, in the morning, that's one of the things we enjoy doing is going out on the veranda, enjoying the views, especially on at sea days, or even if we're at a port. It's you can still very much access the veranda, but it does, you have to walk around it. And there's probably about, I don't know, a good 6 inches, 8 inches between the edge of the bed and, going out the door, I think.
Yeah, I think you can also just climb over the bed.
You can, and you can have, if you have a kid that's there, you just have them deal with it.
I was going to ask if you had to hurdle the kids or to get out there or not.
I do know a full adult can sleep on it. So it's a pretty big bed that comes down, right?
It is.
I mean, it's pretty nice that they have rooms that could fit 5 people. Because I know for some vacations, people feel like they have to book 2 rooms, but it's nice that you could still, with a family of 5, book 1 room on Disney Cruise. And
I think that's helpful, right? If you're going to be traveling perhaps with friends or older kids or something like that, that aren't going to want to climb up in that bunk bed anymore. Those rooms really can help you out with a family of 4 full size people that could be staying in that room.
Yeah, and something else I noticed too, what do you call it? The chest of drawers that's kind of built into the room. In the regular veranda rooms, it's more in the middle, closer to where the queen bed is. On the family one, it's closer to the Murphy bed and closer to the door that goes out to the veranda. So for our girls who don't have many clothes, for me, it didn't make sense that was in that location. So that was a little bit weird for me, but it is bigger in that room compared to the one that's in the regular family. The ones that are in the regular veranda rooms.
And my wife would hate that because that's her spot to put all her stuff on the top too. So if it's over further there. Yeah, I keep trying to pawn my kids off on the crew and have them work and just stay down in the crew quarters and get on board, but that just still hasn't worked yet. So we're stuck with them in our room as well. Well, let's talk about some of the fun things you guys get to do around the ship. 3 sea days. What were some of the things that you guys enjoyed either as a family or as a group?
Our first at sea day, we actually sailed through a monsoon. So they shut just about everything that's outdoors down. You couldn't even go outside, but they did add a lot of extra trivia and
like family activity, like family focus. So there's a lot of 18 up trivias and things like that are happening, but the things they added were all family based because I believe Edge was closed as well because you can only access Edge through the outside, through the pool deck.
Yes, Edge was closed.
And it had a leak in it as well, that big storm we went through. So there was a lot shut down that day, but they also, like Carrie said, just added more activities. So that was really great.
Let's talk about that storm real quick. So I remember seeing video of water coming out of an elevator, I believe. So talk a little bit about that experience.
So my best understanding is that the Deck 9 was flooding like crazy. The pool was overflowing. There was just buckets and coming down of water. And whether it's a drainage issue or I don't know, but there was water like a foot up to the doors that opened into Deck 9, and someone accidentally opened a door and water just poured in. And so like outside of our, looking at Chad's face, big mouth. Yeah. The water just was coming down. It was coming down a few elevators. It was coming down, I believe, like the chandelier was dripping out of the chandelier in the atrium. It was dripping down the walls and out of the, not dripping, it was pouring.
Yeah.
Out of like the sprinkler head in the ceiling on deck 8 where our cabin was. Thankfully, our cabin didn't get flooded, but there were people whose cabins were flooded and had water like in the cabin, and they had to evacuate their cabins. And this is during the day, not at night. And Disney had to move them to a different stateroom, I guess, which it felt really full. Apparently, it seems like Disney still has a few staterooms they're keeping available these days. So that's good because it gave them a place to move. But yeah, and it wasn't all over the ship, but it did happen for some.
It was pretty crazy. We heard from one crew member who had, I guess, been on for 20 years that was the worst storm they'd ever actually sailed through. So, I mean, that was just one person's experience, but I think they usually go around storms that are like that. I don't know why we went through it or if there was just no way of going around it, but I never felt unsafe. It was just there was so much water. I mean, right outside our door, it was just pouring out of the ceiling. Everything was closed and everything outside was closed. It was a very strange experience.
Yeah. And again, going to always come back to this. The crew did such an amazing job making people feel
so
comfortable, feel safe, made it as enjoyable as it could have been. You know, I'm sure there were a few folks who had fairly negative experiences that day because their room was impacted, but that wasn't the majority of the ship. But, you know, like in our vlog, we did want to make sure and highlight a few of those experiences that we had heard from people that we were getting to know that didn't have such an great experience that day, because, you know, sometimes that happens. And, you know, it's one of the things we value is we want to be honest and real with our experiences or maybe experiences others are having. So, but it colored that day in the cruise because the rest of the cruise, deck 9, that landing area where you come out of the elevator or the stairwell and you go out to deck 9, the pool deck, it smelled musty the rest of the week in there. And you could see Disney was trying to do everything they could to dry it up, to replace carpet where they could, but there was still a bit of a smell, and
it was more than a bit. It smelled bad, and they had cups of
coffee grounds,
like all over the place to try to absorb the smell, I guess. And I mean, so they were doing their best. It's not like they had carpet distributor pull up next to us, but a lot of the carpet was ruined. So it was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Trying to imagine a foot of water piled up outside those doors, and then somebody in their infinite wisdom saying, well, I should open this.
And that's what we had heard. We didn't see that happen. We had heard that's something that happens.
But we did see some video. We did have some video of water coming through those doors, and because the doors are automatic open too. So I think at some point they turned that off so it wouldn't automatically open. But yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, we use coffee grounds in the airplane, actually, in the lavatories to kind of absorb the smells. I see a lot of the flight attendants
do what you got to do.
You do what you got to do. And then I've seen them with the big fans, but man, with how much water, it's going to be tough to try that out. So
yeah. And that said, again, our experience that day wasn't horrible. It was a bummer to not go outside, bummer not to get soft serve, bummer not to get, but again, they did what they could. They even opened up cabanas all day and pretty much had similar offerings in there, at least the burgers and some pizza in cabanas that you would have normally been able to get on the pool deck. So, and even ice cream, not soft serve, but they'd scoop some ice cream for you and serve that if you wanted. And so they did everything I think they could to still make it the best possible experience in the midst of a really crazy storm.
So after 40 days and 40 nights underneath the water there, what
I was actually going to ask whether they changed the hallway music to the Gilligan's Island theme at all.
We saw a few doves flying with an olive branch in its mouth.
What were some of the highlights that stood out as far as spending time either with family or your big group?
A lot of trivia, animation classes, and just hanging out. Especially, that's one of the things we did almost every night. Our girls went to go to the lounge, I think that's what it's called, to do karaoke. And that was a lot of fun. But they were doing that with their friends after dinner, for us, we hung out with friends in Fathoms. Yeah. And that's where like the adult area is. And they had the adult game shows and adult karaoke or whatever. There's all sorts of things. And even some of the Walt Disney Theater entertainers had kind of a smaller adults only show in there. And so that was, I think Eric Jones was in there. We saw him on the Fantasy last year, and he was also on this cruise, and he did a great job. He's a magician. Tyler Mason, he did a ventriloquist show. We saw him in the theater. We also saw him in Fathoms at night, and it was just, I love the entertainers because they play with the crowd and have fun and bring them up and include them and stuff. And those were all just really fun, but also even just the game shows and seeing people go up and make fools of themselves in a fun way.
Well, and the crew who run all of those game shows and are like the MCs for the entertainers, they are just so funny and so fun, and they seem like they love their job. This cruise, we did a lot more of that nightlife stuff than we have done on other cruises. And I think it's because both of our kids were fully occupied. They didn't really care if they saw us or not. They're having so much fun with their friends. And so I don't know. It was really, that was so much fun to just do all those nightlife things. And it was different. It was a different experience.
Yeah. I don't know if we do that on regular cruises when it's just us as a family, as much at least.
Because we also had the friends to hang out with. So that was part of the reason.
So that's one of the benefits of cruising with friends is you know, being able to do that a little bit more, hopefully, if your kids especially have something fun that they like to do.
They are so quick-witted, some of the entertainment staff and how they work with the crowds. And I'm with you. I love being able to see the entertainers. You know, the big stage shows are kind of cool, but I love it when you can see them like in a more intimate setting. And it gives them a little bit more free reign to kind of see how the audience is reacting to things. And then maybe they kind of change things up a little bit and make it a little bit more special.
Yep. And it was a lot of fun seeing a few friends just go for it.
Make fools of themselves a little bit.
Yes.
I shouldn't say make fools, but just have a good time with it.
Yeah. Yes. And just a few of our friends going for it at karaoke was just epic.
I don't know what it is about the magic, because I think that's also been probably our family's most sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, engagement or whatever with the entertainment staff. I found the staff on the Magic just to be fantastic on our one sailing on there in a way that we haven't necessarily seen on some of the other ones. And maybe it's probably similar with the Wonder. I think when you've got sort of those more intimate settings versus kind of some of the larger venues that you get on the, you know, Dream and Wish class ship. But, you know, I agree with you. Our families also had some really great experiences on the Magic with the staff.
So the kids had a good time with the Edge and the Vibe. Any highlights for them and things that they liked other than spending time with friends?
Yeah, I mean, they were just they did enjoy both of the clubs and some of the things that were planned in the clubs. But I think having those friends and being able to text them through the DCL app and through the chat feature and figure out, oh, we're going to go here now, we're going to go there now. I mean, they just love even having lunch together, you know, just doing, I feel like they love being independent like that. Like they're going to go get lunch and then they're going to go explore the ship and then they're going to do karaoke together. They did a lot of karaoke.
Just to make sure, if you don't know, our girls are 13 and 15, so they're definitely like old enough to be able to do that.
Toddlers or anything like that.
A 3-year-old wandering the ship.
I don't know if we mentioned their ages yet, so if you're the first time hearing about us, that just want to make sure and communicate.
Yeah, so they always found something to do, definitely.
Well, should we turn to the ports a little bit, Chad?
Yeah, sure. So after sailing through the monsoon, your first port of call was
Cozumel. Yeah.
And we really loved Cozumel.
Yeah.
We initially did have a planned excursion there, not through Disney. We were going to go to Paradise Beach, I think is what it's called. We set that up with a few other friends, and because of all the rain, it was forecasted to rain most of the day in Cozumel. The day before we either called or emailed them, and we were able to cancel a reservation. We just didn't want to be at a beach when it was raining all day. Of course, we get there and it's beautiful. So we didn't have a plan, which I like to have a plan, but we didn't have a plan. So we just went for it. And we ended up getting past the port area, did the little shopping, met a couple shop owners that were just fantastic. Just had some really great experiences doing that. And then one of the shop owners Carrie was asking him about, like, is there any place that you'd recommend we go to? Like, we really just want to like be somewhere on the water, enjoying some drinks and eating some good chips and guacamole. And he suggested a place that ended up being perfect for that.
Yeah. It was called Hemingway's, and there's what do you call it in front tide pools. There's tide pools in front that we could walk around and look at. And then I had the best mango margarita that I have had in my entire life at that place. And I want to go back and have another one, like right now. It was like you could tell there was actually like real mango in the mango margarita. It wasn't like mango syrup flavored. It was like, you could tell it was legit. It was very good. Yeah. I had one too. And they had the tahini on the top rim, and it was just. And we just had a beautiful view, and we actually did take a taxi to get there, but then we walked back. It wasn't really that far from the port. And
it was a little bit, it didn't look far, but there's a water taxi like pier that I think does ferries to the mainland of Mexico. For some reason, that in our eyes, it looked like that's where the ship was, but it was further beyond that. So it was a little bit longer than we expected, but it still was walkable.
We actually did get a taxi halfway back. I forgot about that because it was really hot, but it was it's such a beautiful place. I would really like to go back there and explore more, but we did have some friends do the ATV excursion and
did with Disney.
Yeah. And if we go back there, I think I might want to do that.
I think it was an ATV and beach excursion with lunch, and they had everything we saw from there, because they also have a vlog for Love of the Mouse on YouTube, and what they shared, what they told us, their experience, it sounded amazing. And so we always like to do like kind of like one adventure one and one more chill excursion if we have the opportunity. But this one, because we had to cancel our one relaxing day on the beach, we still had a great time. The one thing about Cozumel that I think stood out to us the most is the people that we interacted with were not pushy. They weren't like pushing you to get stuff, making you feel like half guilty if you don't buy anything. If you were browsing, it was cool. They were still nice and helpful. And if you made it obvious you weren't going to buy anything, it wasn't like, they treated you bad or anything like that. It was, all of our experiences there were great.
One more thing. We made the mistake of getting Starbucks right before we got back on the ship. And then
which is right in the port area.
It's right in the port area. And then right beyond that, there was this little bakery that had a coffee shop. And we actually ended up throwing away our Starbucks because everything in that bakery looked so good. And it was so much better. I mean, I like Starbucks, but if you go there, there's like this banana cafe that has
Banana and Co.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wish we would have known that ahead of time. And I don't know why we went to a Starbucks when we were in Mexico.
Sometimes you just want that taste of home, right? And then like if you're somewhere and you see a Subway.
No. No.
Exactly.
Sorry. It's an old joke.
Yeah. Like if you went up to Palo per se, and there was a Subway there instead, you just go in and just enjoy your footlong, right?
Sometimes you just want to eat fresh. I mean,
but you know what I love about the story though, you guys, is that sometimes, I mean, I know Chris, you're kind of a planner, and I think Chad and I are as well, and probably you too, Carrie, but for nope. Okay. Well, there we go. So, but for all our planning, sometimes some of the best times that we have are like when everything falls apart and you end up doing something that you didn't even plan for. And it ends up being a great day where you're having this great mango margarita and some guacamole and just enjoying the views of the ocean.
Yes.
Yep.
That's great.
And the girls, I am itching to get back to Cozumel because, from listening to you guys and some of the things that you've gotten, Steve, I know you had Zach on the podcast a while back and he talked about a place that he went. There's all these awesome places that we didn't even occur to us the one time that we've taken a cruise to Cozumel. So I think there's a lot there. I think it's also really good for people to hear that there's stuff that's off the ship that's accessible, that, hey, you don't necessarily have to go and book a fancy port adventure through Disney, especially if you're looking to save a little cash here or there. You can get off and just walk around, find some really neat things, whether it be shops or places to grab a drink, stuff like that. I think it's really good to hear.
Yeah, and I can see too, we're pretty adventurous and we don't mind taking some risks, but I can see how some people would be really nervous about getting off at a port and trying to take a taxi somewhere. Our experience with that, we didn't have any issues in Cozumel.
I know. I was like, well, in the Grand Cayman.
We'll get to Grand Cayman in a minute.
Okay. I guess that is a good point as far as, some people are probably, especially it's their first time outside of the U.S. and it's a whole new place and everything like that. But I think to your point too is, if you feel comfortable, sometimes you can just read people, and sometimes you can just get a good vibe of who you can trust, and don't be afraid to ask the locals like where they might want to go.
Yeah, and
that helps
we're
too.
so glad that we asked that shop owner about the place called Hemingway's, because he was just so friendly in the first place. And then, that's a great tip, is just ask someone local. They'll tell you where to go.
I'm going to make a little bit of a plug, if it's okay. The shop that we went into where he gave us that information, it's called Culture Art. And the shop owner's name is Yvonne. And they just have some really great handmade items there that Carrie got a few of them. He was
simple things too, like magnets,
but it's a little off of the it's off of the main street right there, where you get off the ship and there's a long street, but you got to go a little bit deeper in. But it's called Culture Art. Amazing shop, really friendly owner. Yeah, if you're looking for somewhere to shop to get some like Cozumel things to remember your trip, it's a great place to go.
Because sometimes you go places and everybody has the same thing, but he has a lot of handmade, really neat stuff.
I saw a lot of Diamonds International up in Alaska here just recently, so nice to see some locals up there. Okay, well let's jump over to Grand Cayman, your next stop, a favorite port for a lot of people. We've enjoyed the 2 excursions we've done there, but it sounds like maybe you guys may have had a little bit different experience. How did that work out for you guys?
I feel like we said, Chris is the planner, and we were trying to do this one a little bit more budget friendly. So we were like, well, let's just not do excursions this time. Let's just find some place to go. We've had some luck with that in the past. And I think we kind of had a plan. Chris looked into it, but it just kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem was we got in this taxi and we told him where we wanted to go, and he kind of ignored us and took us where he thought would be a better place for us to go. And it was
more of a shuttle bus than a taxi.
It was, but he called it a taxi. It was like shuttle taxi. You get a bunch of people on there. So he brought us all the way down to this beach.
7 Mile Beach, but it's like the main public entrance to 7 Mile Beach. And we wanted to be a lot closer to another spot.
We wanted to go to a lunch at a specific spot. And there was a beach really close by that was 7 Mile Beach. It was closer to the port, 7 Mile Beach. He kept going, and we just didn't feel it was happening so fast. We didn't feel really comfortable speaking up and saying, "Oh, could you just let us off here?" So the main problem was, once we got to that beach, it started pouring down rain, and we were just.
It's a beautiful beach. Like the water is pristine. It's aqua blue. It was a beautiful beach. There was a lot of people there. I would have loved to have gone on the water.
Yeah. And
just enjoyed it. But yeah, like Carrie said, it was buckets of rain. So that was another rainy day for us. So what would you do in that situation? Would you turn around and go back, find a cab to take back? Of course, right? No.
That would have been smart.
That would have been the smart thing to do. We walked down the beach in the rain because, we love adventure. And
I knew we'd get to where we were trying to go eventually.
But as easy as it is to do to misjudge how far something is, we walked down the beach probably for a good 2 miles, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I was pulling on my phone because I made sure to get access to the internet through Verizon that we have. And I was able to figure out, okay, where do we need to go? And so there was this, I don't know if it was Weston or something, but there was a resort that was right there. So like, okay, let's at least go inside and just kind of dry off and clean up a little bit.
It was a really nice resort. It was like a Four Seasons or something like that. I don't think it was Four Seasons, but it was something really like ultra fancy.
And they wouldn't let us eat at their restaurant. Lindsay's shirt was soaking wet. I was wet. Went in the bathroom and did a little change, and and I'm sure they loved that we did that.
I'm imagining like Ferris Bueller walking into the fancy restaurant. Did you tell him you were Abe Froman, perhaps?
Yes, except for we were also soaking wet and yeah.
Well, the one thing that I told our girls is look like you belong here.
Yeah,
look like you belong here, and you'll be okay. Didn't go so well. So we ended up making our way to the lobby because there was nowhere there to eat, and we just wanted to sit down and dry off a little bit and just feel like a human being again. So we ended up going to the lobby, finding a taxi. They got a taxi for us. I think they were happy to get rid of us. And we ended up going to the place, I think it was Pepper's Bar and Grill that we were planning on going to originally, that we had passed when the taxi shuttle was taking us. to 7 Mile Beach. And so we ended up going there. It was a good meal.
It was a really good meal. And I think, our kids, they started off with pretty good attitudes and they went downhill. But, later in the day, I was talking to someone on the ship who said they knew it was going to rain, so they just stayed in their stateroom. And I was telling the girls, I think so. Yeah, we got wet, but we walked on the beach in Grand Cayman and it was beautiful. And we'll always remember that.
Yeah.
So, and if we just stayed in our room, we could do that at home. Not with as good of a view, but
as bummed as I am about kind of how it played out, I'm still glad we were able to experience it.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's just the breaks of travel sometimes, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately. Yeah, to your point, we just went to Ketchikan, and there was a major choke point getting to Ketchikan from where Norwegian docks, and then getting back. And Anna Wake and her friend Amy were in the elevator. And one of the ladies that they were in the elevator with said, we've been to Ketchikan before. It's a zoo. We're just going to the spa. We kind of joked about that the whole day too, as far as we could have just stayed on the ship. But, it wasn't a magical day, but we had a great time walking around Dock Street or Creek Street and a couple other different places. So those are the memories you and your girls will definitely have. And you had a great dinner or great lunch at Peppers too. So
yeah, it was good.
Yep. Yeah. Keep in mind too, though, even though you see a dollar sign on the menu, it's Cayman dollars, not American dollars. And the exchange rate is not in our favor.
We thought we were getting a good deal at first.
When we saw
much when the credit card bill comes.
Yeah.
When we saw 2 mini lobster tails for $22, we were really excited.
Yeah.
Let's get 4.
You get the bill.
Oh man, that's a good tip right there. So anyways, anything else about Grand Cayman, guys? No?
I would like to go back there again and probably do an excursion. Yeah. I think my mind has been changed a little bit where I've been telling Chris, we really don't need to do an excursion. Let's just explore. But I think if you're going to explore, you need to have at least 1 or 2 really specific plans to go by, because you don't want to go all the way there and maybe never come back and miss out on a lot of good stuff. Especially
with Grand Cayman, because it is a tender port. And it was, because it was raining and a little stormy that day, the tender experience was crazy.
I think it was also left over from that monsoon, the waves that were coming in. It was hard to get back onto the ship from the tender boat. The waves were huge. The little metal gangplank they fold out to connect you from the tender boat to getting back on the Magic. There was 5-foot differences, sometimes within a few moments of each other, where it was they were having people come across 1 or 2 at a time and then pause. But I felt bad because there was moms clutching onto their babies and older folks. And I'm just oh my gosh. People getting seasick. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while since I planned a trip to Grand Cayman, but if I remember correctly, so that 7 Mile Beach is kind of the main drag there, up and down. And there's all kinds of little beach clubs and stuff that are along there that you can actually, buy a day pass to and stuff like that. So it's fairly easy port to, I think, to kind of do your own thing, to your point, hop in a taxi, get out there, kind of stop where you want to get to and stuff like that, and sort of spend the day. But it's not, but often those places will book up well in advance of kind of where those, so it's something you want to sort of plan in advance and not just sort of show up and be hey, I'm here. I'd like to come to your beach club, because they're going to be hey, get out of here. We're already sold out for the day.
Yep. You're soaking wet, leave.
I think we've talked about this too, as far as with the tender ports as well. If you book a excursion with Disney, at least you end up getting a time as well. So if you need to get off that ship early or something like that, especially if it's a shorter day or something like that, sometimes that helps out as well. Well, from there, you guys have 2 days at sea. We talked a lot about what you guys did on the ship. Any other thoughts about traveling with the large group that you guys had? Any other experiences as a group that you guys got to do? Or what are your thoughts about that, traveling with a big group?
Like Carrie had said, it was great just throughout the cruise. We would always be seeing people that were part of that group. And it was very unique. That's not a normal thing that happens, I think. There are sometimes, I do see sometimes where there's a group cruise for a Facebook, a large Facebook Disney community, cruising Disney community or something like that. But it's not a normal thing we've seen on the few cruises we've been on, at least. And so is definitely unique, but you do get to see people throughout the cruise. And it's, it was great knowing we had a few times planned to meet up during the cruise. Not everyone came to those, but it was really cool just to connect with people, hear their story a little bit. And in our situation, obviously, a number of these people knew us from watching our vlogs. So they knew a lot about us. We didn't know a lot about them. So that was really fun to get to know them more personally. But, like I said, doing a lot of trivias, sitting down with different people, getting to know them that way. It was a lot of fun, just connecting with people on a different level like that. And at the same time, whenever we go on a Disney cruise again, it's going to be just us as a family. It'll also be really nice having that experience too, of just enjoying more family moments together.
Yeah. Yeah. There was probably less family moments, especially I'd say at dinner, because dinner's usually when we really reconnect with the four of us and talk about our day if we haven't been together for the whole day. So we didn't have that as much since it was such a big group and we were always talking to somebody. So, I mean, it's just a different experience. Both are good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so you guys get the 2 beautiful days. Well, hopefully they're beautiful. It sounds like it wasn't a monsoon again.
Yeah, our last 2 days at sea were amazing.
Okay.
Cloudless skies, warm weather. It was beautiful. So we finally got to do the aquadunk slide and enjoy.
Oh, so you tell me now. That's it. The time is now to start to weigh in on the duck versus dunk.
I was scared. I didn't really want to do it, but I was forced to against my will. No, I'm just kidding. I said I would, so I did, and actually did it more than once because it was really fun.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Lindsay and I last year when we were in Orlando for the fantasy cruise that I think we talked about with you guys, we recapped that trip with you guys. We went to Volcano Bay with Universal over in Orlando. And Lindsay and I did a few, one of their really big drop slides at the top of the volcano. Like you walk up all the stairs, you go up there. This one obviously wasn't as big, but it was fun to actually have semi-thrill experience on a Disney cruise ship. Because most of speaking to what you asked, Chad, the Aquaduct is fun, but it's not like a thrill ride. And the Aquadunk, if you're a little more of a thrill seeker, it was a lot of fun having that experience and doing that multiple times during those last 2 days at sea.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Ah, good.
Yeah, the Aquaduct is fun, but I tend to enjoy thrill experiences more. So
the scary part is just the anticipation. Once the drop happens, it's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we saw some videos. This is really why I went on, because my friend Crystal sent me some videos of people doing it from their point of view, which we tried to get that video, but they wouldn't let us take the camera on. And to see it from that point of view, it's not it's not as straight down as it looks.
Yeah.
So you're not going to die. Disney's not going to let that happen.
I don't want to give away the little secret where it takes a second sometimes before that floor drops. So to your point with the anticipation, I love the Aqueduct. I wish it was 10 seconds longer. I don't know what they could do to it, but if there was something they could do to make it 10 seconds
and
longer.
I wish they had it on the Wonder, or I wish there was something like that on the Wonder as well. But we really enjoyed hanging out in the adult pool area with friends those last couple of days as well. Just enjoying a few drinks and just enjoying the pool and some of us getting a little too much sun.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad you guys were able to dry out after the rains from the first part of the cruise and kind of finish it with all the sun, at your backs as you sail back to New Orleans. One quick question, that's the big sailing out of New Orleans is going down the river. I know that when we did it, it was crazy to see how fast the ships were going the other way as you were going down it. Any thoughts about sailing down the New Orleans River?
That was really cool. That was something we were looking forward to. And we were so surprised. I mean, we figured this out ahead of time, but when you look at the map from zoomed out, it looks like you're right next to the ocean, but you're not. You're on the Mississippi River for
8 hours.
8 hours.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. It did start raining pretty soon. We didn't get to have the sail wave party, although they did have it when we left Cozumel. Yeah. So that was neat. Yeah, it was raining the day we left. And so they pushed that to the Cozumel day. But we were a little bit afraid that we wouldn't be able to be outside to watch the sail way down the river, because we really want to just hang out back there, by the deck outside Apollo and just enjoy that. But
Thankfully,
another one of our favorite things to do on the cruise is as we sail away, just be back there. And
yeah, especially if it's a really nice port that you're sailing out of. Thankfully, the rain stopped and we were able to do that. So
yeah, it was a unique and fun experience. I liked it.
Yeah.
Well, you guys get back to New Orleans, and unfortunately, the sailing comes to an end. But you guys spent a little bit of time in New Orleans. You said the hop on, hop off bus. How was that for people?
It was good. We didn't really have enough time. We didn't get to do the whole route, but it took us. I think it would be a nice thing to do because you can get familiar with several different areas. We really liked. What was that first area we got off on?
Trying to remember.
Well, it was pretty close to. Oh man, now I can't remember the names of anything. Chris is going to look it up really quick. It was more of an artsy, kind of slower area than Jackson Square and
Frenchman Street.
Yeah. So Frenchman Street was one of the stops on the hop on, hop off bus. And it was the first stop we got off. And it was such a cool area. I wish we would have had several hours to explore there, but we didn't. But the time we had there was great. And then we did a little bit more hopping on, hopping off, but we just couldn't complete the whole route. So I think it's a neat way to kind of get an overview, figure out a few things you might want to do. But if you only have a few hours, you might just want to pick one place and go there.
Yeah, we got off at the Garden District, walked around a little bit, walked past one of the old cemeteries, and that was really interesting. And then eventually we got a ride back to the French Quarter area, did a little more souvenir shopping, and then called our taxi friend who took us back to the airport.
Yep.
Were you guys walking around with your luggage during that time, or did you stash it someplace? What'd you do?
Good question. So both in San Diego and here, when we've had a little more extended time of the day before we fly home, both times I've used an app called Bounce. You can basically get on that. I think it's usebounce.com as the website, but there's also an app called Bounce. And you can go to any major city, and there's a lot of the cities have places. This was like a visitor center that we dropped our luggage off at here. In San Diego, I think it was like a UPS store. And so different locations will contract with this app or website, and you pay a certain amount of money per bag, and you get to keep it there all day while you go out and enjoy the area. And then you come back, pick up your luggage, and it's really easy.
Yeah, that would have been a huge pain to lug our luggage around all day. So it was definitely worth like $60 or something?
Yeah, it was like $50 or $60 for all four of us. And we had 8 or 9 bags we turned in. So they're a really good deal.
That's a great.
Before. That's a good tip.
Yeah, it is usebounce.com. And then I'm pulling up the app right now and I'm downloading it as we speak. So.
It's great.
That's a great tip. Okay. Well, I guess as we finish up here, any final thoughts, any things that we haven't touched on, you guys, on this trip, or any tips for sailing out of New Orleans that you would give somebody who's sailing out of there for the first time that we haven't talked about? Maybe your thoughts.
I would say it's definitely a port, if you have the chance to spend a couple of days maybe on the front end, the back end too, but I think the front end's a little more fun, to just enjoy the city, enjoy the vibe of the area, enjoy the food. Definitely one of those ports. New Orleans is one of those ports you want to be there a couple of days before the cruise just to enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it is probably good to know if people have any walking limitations. It might be a difficult place to spend much time because there are holes in the street everywhere. And I just thought, I mean, people must break an ankle around here all the time. So if someone has a hard time walking, or if that's a worry for them, like I would not want to go there with my mom, who has, if she broke her leg, it would be awful. I mean, anybody who breaks a leg, it would be awful. But so I think some people might want to be careful where they stay in New Orleans and not be near the French Quarter, where the streets are so bumpy and holy and everything like that.
I think that's another tip too. If you don't like it, if you don't want to hear loud noises, don't stay in the French Quarter. There are other areas you can stay in that are quieter, probably, that are a little bit more relaxed vibe. But we also knew that's where we were going to spend most of our time on the day before the cruise. And so that's why we moved over there.
Chad, thank you so much for helping out today. Any thoughts for you? Any final questions?
No, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me back to do this. This is totally a cruise that I'd like to do. And I'm hoping with the fleet expanding here, I could see the possibility where, because I know that right now these sailings out of New Orleans are fairly limited. You know, they're only 4-6 weeks or something like that. They don't last very long. But I could see a scenario where the magic is spending more time at ports like New Orleans and perhaps Galveston and places like that down the road, so those offerings are expanded. So something I totally want to do. So thanks for letting me be a part of sort of the, getting to hear about it.
Yeah.
I hope we can do one someday. It's really fun.
Yeah, the more they can add cities like New Orleans, which are just kind of destination sites in and of themselves, and then be able to cruise afterwards, I think it just really adds to your whole vacation value. Well, before we get out of here, Chris, Carrie, thank you so much for coming back on the third time. And I want to give you a chance one more time to plug your guys' vlog, because it's just an amazing vlog. I love watching the different videos that you put up each and every time of all your guys' adventures. Where can people find you and follow along with you?
Yeah, it's Adventures in Millerland on YouTube. Same on Instagram, Adventures in Millerland, all one word. If you drop by our channel or Instagram, please comment, say hi, and let us know you found us from listening to this. We'd love to connect with you.
What's next for you? I guess that's the last question.
That's a common question these days. Our kids are about to go to camp, and I'm going to talk quietly.
Lindsay's studying for finals upstairs.
We're going to go to Disneyland while they're at camp. They don't know.
I'll let them know.
That's fantastic. Just text them from there, like with the Ferris wheel in the back. I can't remember the actual name of it.
Yeah,
that'd be hilarious.
Yeah,
Mickey's Wheel of Death or the fun wheel.
Yeah. That thing is terrifying.
My son calls it Mickey's no fun wheel.
Nice. Yeah, so that's in about 2 weeks.
That's the plan right now. There may be something that happens that doesn't let that happen, but the plan right now is to do that.
Right.
But as far as like more cruises or vacations, we're holding things fairly loosely as things move forward throughout the year. But we definitely have some plans in place that we hope we'll be able to do.
Yep.
Well, I look forward to seeing where you guys go next and have a great time at Disneyland.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, Chris, Carrie, thank you so much for coming on once again. Chad, thanks so much. Always fun to catch up with all of you guys. And we'll see you soon on the DCL podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I want to give a huge shout out to Chris and Carrie for coming back on and sharing their experiences, this time sailing on the beautiful Disney Magic out of New Orleans. Once again, go over to YouTube and follow their vlog, their YouTube channel, Adventures in Millerland. They've got vlogs up for this cruise, so you can follow along with all the fun that they had on the Disney Magic out of New Orleans. As always, we'd like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. They help bring this show to you each and every week ad-free. If you'd like to find out how you can support our program, you can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. Also, we'd like to thank each and every one of you who've taken time to go over to iTunes and leave us an iTunes review. That helps the show get a little bit better known in the cruising community, the Disney cruising community, and just the podcasting community in general. And our latest review comes from KPAC3. They say, I enjoy this podcast very much. As a Disney cruiser, I enjoy the trip reports and reviews. They are a wealth of knowledge for Disney and always a good listen. On a recent cruise, we took one of the suggested excursions, and it's one of our favorite that we have ever taken. Thanks, and look forward to many more shows. Well, you are welcome, KPAC3. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks for taking time to write that review. Well, as we head on into the middle of summer, if you are headed down to the Disney parks, headed out on a Disney cruise, or headed out with Adventures by Disney, or just running some of those virtual races on behalf of all of us at the DCL podcast, myself, Steve, Christy, Nova, and Lake, we want to wish you to be well, enjoy time with family and friends, and we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.